Alright guys, TacticalRab back again. So I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Absolute chaos in the CDL last night as the AR players continue to rage against what they see as the SMG machine. Dashy especially vocal because of a new attachment GA that was potentially proposed. 4 teams though voted against this going through. Which of those 4 teams? Why are so many of the AR players deeply frustrated about this situation? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We firstly though have to dive into the map pool because there are changes. There will continue to be changes. These have not yet been officially confirmed by the league, but it is the feeling that the pros have tested Vista. That's in the pool. Invasion Hardpoint is thankfully gone, as we discussed yesterday. Bance, though, isn't so sure he agrees. He says, can't believe we've let Vista be added because people liked it in ranked, and maybe it looks pretty, so people added it, right? But aBeZy says, Ben, Vista is better than Invasion, Subbase and Skid Row. Now, Subbase is actually a very interesting one just to look at it from the aBeZy and the FaZe side, because that is by far FaZe's worst map in the game right now. It's like the only map they have a particularly bad record on. I'm pretty sure they're 1 in 5 on Subbase this season. So when you are other teams making the decision on what map should go, I do feel like there has been a lean towards keeping Subbase in, even if it's not the best. Maybe it is the best of these 3, to be fair, because the new Skid Row with the spawns is terrible. I would actually think that Subbase, I would keep it over the other 2, as we're going to see in a second. FaZe, though, probably wouldn't because they're not good at it. But if you are a other CDL team looking to make a map pool change and 6-star hardpoint is good enough to play, as they believe it is, in addition to the fact that the Water Hill apparently will change, I think Parasite said that a little birdie had been telling him, actually, I think he said it here, I think, yeah, what a little birdie told me, it'll be moved. I don't know when though, but apparently it's like a known thing that they will be moving the pool hardpoint on 6-star, and therefore it seems like the pros have decided, you know what, it's good enough to play. It might not be raid. We know that regardless of what you do, you could put raid in the game today. The spawns aren't as good as they were back then, so it's not going to play quite the same anyway. But I do think that 6-star is good enough to play. The pros seemingly agree. So rumour has it that's going to be in, and Skid Row is going to be the map to go. Skid Row, I think to watch is actually pretty good, but it does have that P2 hardpoint, which is pretty atrocious. If that was in the downstairs of that building, I do think it'd be better. And so many of the hills are rather difficult to break, and I don't know, maybe it's not the best experience to play. To watch, I think it's alright, but Skid Row's going to go. The new spawns, it's funny really, they tweaked the spawns a few weeks ago now to say, well, we've added new spawn points to improve the map, and then if anything, it got worse. So that's gone. Invasion hardpoint is gone. 6-star and Vista hardpoint are in. So to me, this sounds like a pretty nice map pool, right? We're looking at hardpoint, and we've got Karachi, of course, that's going to stay. Subbase is going to stay. And then we've got Rio, 6-star, and Vista, right? 3 new maps that have come in over the last couple of months that actually look quite nice to play. Now, it's not just 6-star hardpoint that might be in. Also rumours that 6-star search and control are being voted on, with terminal search and invasion control the ones potentially on the chopping block. I do hope there is a control change. Many people would like it to be for high-rise, and I don't think high-rise control is good. But at least both points are actually cappable. It's not incredibly stale high-rise control to watch as far as I'm concerned. Invasion very much is. And Terminal S&D is just not well liked really by anybody, to be honest. I'm not really sure any team considers it to be massively their bread and butter. Potentially a team like Surge, they liked it at the start of the season. Don't know what their team thinks, of course, nowadays with the changes that they have made, or been forced to make, you could argue, and we'll discuss that slightly later today. But yeah, Terminal Search out of there. Of course, Toronto, I'm sure, will be pretty happy with this, because they weren't happy that Skid Row Search was gone, because they dominated on that during the Major 1 cycle. Terminal Search was a map that they wanted to be gone. Maybe that's going to occur here. So we'll see. Obviously, there's also the talking point, what about departures? Is departures control better than 6-star control, better than invasion control? Quite possibly. What about tanked as well? That's another thing in consideration, but it seems like there will be at least 2, if not 3 or more map set changes going forward, which is, I would say, pretty damn good. Even if the pros have been pretty lazy on testing all of the things, you know, hopefully they're going to make some right decisions here. And even if they aren't the right decisions, it's going to be a different map pool. It's going to switch things up, which I think is going to be good for everybody involved. But will the meta change at all? Because this has been the big drama of the last 48 hours, has been the Rival versus the MCW. Of course, the Rival got a nerf in the most recent update. So did the MCW, though. Arguably a bigger nerf, although I think there is a debate to be had on that, actually, as to whether what the pros and the AR players are currently complaining about was actually really just the case before. But Clay actually reckons that the billeted, is it the billeted break or something? It's on the muzzle. Honestly, I lose track of all these bloody attachments they have nowadays. Back in my day, you know, quick draw, grip, stock, you know, like, and run it up. But it's not that way anymore, unfortunately. And as Clay says, fully convinced that it's so bad online and so good on LAN because there's some sort of, you know, the ping and the netcode and messing around with bullet velocity gives you ghost bullets online compared to LAN. And Gravity says, yeah, I love it, but it's god-awful online. And when I use the ping tool, or when I get ping tool in matches, it gets 10 times worse. So maybe that's the reason why the Ravens guys have been getting slammed online in scrims. Difficult to say. Or maybe not in scrims, you know, but in their matches they've been bad online. Maybe that's a thing that Clay needs to figure out and resolve. But this has been the main discussion, right? The AR players are basically saying their gun is now terrible. The MCW is awful, the rifle is way too overpowered, and it's breaking the meta. The rival's going to dominate. Now look, I'll be straight up. If you had no changes to the way that things presently are we going to see 8 rivals on the map? I don't think we are, to be perfectly honest. I think it would actually force the flex player to actually be a flex player. There will still be at least a main AR, and as I said yesterday, I find the game more enjoyable to watch when there's more SMGs on the map. But nonetheless, the SMGs or the AR players are trying their best to maintain their situation. And it's very interesting, the politics of this whole thing, right? Because I don't really agree with what a lot of the ARs are saying on this topic personally, but I do think that there are certain AR players, not Dashy and others, because, you know, they're phenomenal staples in the league, whatever. But there are quite a few players in the league, I would argue, that are on the verge of being out of the league. And if their AR gets worse, if they can find a way to finesse themselves a better situation, then all of a sudden, you know, they might find themselves in a better position to maintain their spot. The other point is that many of the GA representatives from the teams tend to be the more like old head players that also tend to be more veteran AR players, right? So I imagine, this isn't necessarily the case across the board, but generally speaking, the gentleman's agreement representative in the chat for each team will tend, you know, it'll be Attach, it'll be Slasher, it'll be, you know, probably formerly Arcetes. Accuracy, for sure. Players like this, right? So often you might find that the decisions are somewhat swayed by that discussion. But the WSP Swarm has been GA'd via sources. This gun is gone. Not massively surprised the ARs were complaining about it, but the ARs ain't stopping there. They want to go one step further. So the point was some Parasites, you know, just try a scrim with a BP50 or bring the Holger back, or, you know, the Ram 9s. Just try something else, right? But apparently, as Kenny says, and this is when the point comes across about, well, are they too lazy or whatever? Because as Kenny says, the CDL rule set bans them, so we actually can't use them in the scrims. And then Parasites, well, you know, are we sure? How about you make them, you know, custom rules, and therefore you can actually run it? But yeah, I guess that's too hard for the pros to actually pull it off. Of course, some of the SMG players are like, well, hang on a second, this ain't fair. Our gun's getting nerfed for no reason, and we'll see maybe that in a second. ARs, every time a sub rips them cross map, and then here they go, Insight's crying. So this seems to be what the feeling is. Now, it was absolute chaos, clearly. We don't have access to the Gentleman's Agreement public rep chat, because it's not public, obviously. GA stands for Gentleman's Agreement. If you guys are unfamiliar, the concept is the CDL will ban certain things in the rule set, such as, you know, claymores historically or whatever. Stupid things, UAVs, they're not allowed. But everything else that's not officially banned, the pros, if they think that it's stupid, can Gentleman's Agreement it and decide between them, and then it makes the game better to get rid of certain things. The discussion was, the rival is now very strong compared to the MCW, which was true before, and it's still true now, to be fair, so we'll see in a second. But the barrel attachment that everybody uses, I don't know if it's like the clear shot barrel or whatever, some barrel attachment that people use, as I say, I kind of lose track of all these things. The AR players were proposing, how about we enforce a GA where you can't use a barrel on your rival, which is basically what they did back in World War II with the bar. The bar long barrel attachment was Gentleman's Agreemented, and that probably made the game more balanced, to be fair. But in this case, there's an argument that it's going the other way. So it's clearly chaos, right? Because the AR players are pushing for this hard, and then the SMG players and some of the other teams that prefer the way things presently are not pushing for this at all. Now, Dashy tweeted this out. Well, actually, Rotation tweeted this out. Dashy quote tweeted it to show that the rival kills faster than the MCW at every range. Now, firstly, this data is biased because it considers sprint to fire time, which there's going to be a natural difference there between an AR and an SMG. When you exclude the sprint to fire time, you see it looks more like this. Now, still, the rival is very strong, and often you do see this with like faster fire rate SMG weapons. They can kill faster at most ranges, as we see here. At most ranges, the rival 9 at the bottom kills faster in terms of pure time to kill, but then again, it should be theoretically harder to shoot with because you fires more bullets per second, and it's an SMG. But sure, is the rival very strong? Yes. Is it as strong as was being implied by this graphic? No, not in my opinion, because, the data I think was being somewhat manipulated. So I wanted to share a couple of clips here, right? Because this then got proposed in the GA chat. How about we GA the barrel on the rival? Most teams, or at least most representatives, were in agreement with this. But the rule is, at least the pros have decided the rule is, you've got to have 9 out of 12 to agree. Anything less than 9, that's not an overwhelming majority, therefore it stays in. And Dashy said that basically one team had said no, but it actually turns out 4 teams had said no, and maybe Dashy was either talking about the big name team or the final team to vote.
Yeah, but he gets unshadowed eventually, though, right?
Brucey's in here. Everything else shuts off when Brucey's in here. We gotta talk to Brucey. Yo, come in. Seems like every team is down to try to no barrel GA except for one. Guess who? Well, does it really matter, Bruce? Because if it's just one of them, you gotta tell them to just fucking kick rocks because it is what it is. Even if it is FaZe, even if it is FaZe, Brucey.
It's 11 out of 12. Fucking.
You know what I'm saying? If it's 11 out of 12, even if it is FaZe, you're just gonna have to tell them that. You're just gonna have to tell them that, Bruce. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But can you expose them?
Barrel, muchas gracias.
Seattle is the reason that the rival barrel is still in.
Holy shit, we're blaming Seattle?
Yeah.
Damn, that's insane.
They had the last vote that determined whether or not
they actually were the last vote. Yeah, we blame Seattle.
They're obviously a part of a greater vote, but in your pocket.
Sib said, if you're getting ripped cross map for free, hit a free for all. Good lord, that's what Sib said. That's what Sib said. Do you guys think it's a faded take out of?
The thing is, we can't say anything. The guy just like shit on everybody last stage.
Yeah, see that, Chris, you can't say anything because they don't care about.
What am I supposed to say? The guy's fucking ass, Tom?
Yeah.
The guy just torched everybody last stage.
Nah, you wanna know what it is? After you win an event, you got straight. You can say
whatever the fuck you want.
Bro, you actually can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit the free for all.
I won't lie. After event, like after you win an event, you're on top of the world at that point, bro.
Yeah, you're delusional.
You're delusional. You're delusional.
Were scrims better today? Oh my god, the game was infinitely better. You know what's crazy, stream? You know what's crazy? We scrimmed 2 teams with no barrel. Shout out to those 2 teams, Vegas, New York. Shout out to you guys, for real. Thank you for complying. You know what's crazy? Rival's still godlike. It's still godlike. The only difference, there's some pros and some cons to it too, for like the subs. I mean, the gun got quicker, the pull-up time on it, movement speed. The only con, which should be a con on the gun, is you can't cross-map with ease. You could still cross-map, it's just not as easy. I don't want to say you don't get cross-map, because I still got fucking zapped a couple times today. But it was more like I know it's much harder to, so you just tip your hat to it.
So people have been trying to figure out who is Dashy talking about, which teams voted against this. FaZe quite clearly have done so, it seems. Like, they don't want to take the barrel off. They don't really think much has changed. I think that's probably true. I don't think that anything is substantially different. Yes, the MCW is weaker now because it doesn't kill in 4. You can't kill in 4 shots with a headshot anymore. That's, that's true. And the gun is weaker. But on the surface, the gun still basically handles the same. Nothing that much has changed, and the rival, sure, maybe has got slightly better with respect to the AR, but I don't think that it's absolutely overwhelming, and the rival wouldn't, there wouldn't be 8 rivals on the map if they ran the game as it presently is. FaZe seemingly agree with that sentiment, and they're like, well, our SMG players are good, we ain't gonna vote to make the SMG worse. The other teams, however, though, apparently, were teams that get slammed out on Friday. This was the funny statement here from Dashy, so as Brandon says, unbelievably biased votes in the GA chat, this is hilarious. Karma's like 8-4, get screwed. We wanted to get rid of it, but the others of 4 teams didn't. 3 teams that are out of the tourney on Friday have this much influence. Whose implication is this: if you're getting slammed every tourney, you shouldn't even get the same voting power as some of the better teams. Now, we're pretty sure Seattle is one of these teams. The other teams, somewhat unclear. There's rumors that it's potentially Boston or just teams that have been top 12. So, yeah, I'm thinking possibly Boston on that one. I don't really know the other team. That's a matter of a debate. But obviously, many of the SMG players are saying, well, well, you know, what are you talking about? These flex players that surely are there to flex, they don't want to flex. They don't want to run a sub if it's that good. I mean, this is actually a fair point from Tej, right? If the sub is that good, surely some of these flex players would be buzzing at the opportunity to bring in a flex. I get it for the main ARs, but when there's, you know, some flex players that arguably should be pretty happy about this situation if they were confident in their abilities, that might not be the case. And then, of course, there's further discussion here as Slasher says, it's all fallen apart. It might be time for the return of the Slasher World League or the Thanos World League because, as he said quite a while ago now, there are no gentlemen left to make agreements with. Just the final thing I wanted to mention before we close out here, right, is as Marky B says, and I've discussed this at length many times, the GA system is so broken, so much bias in play, and, you know, the point is, as Marky says, we need an independent group of non-biased individuals with a high level of game knowledge to decide. The system has been broken for years. And, you know, I completely agree with this, you know, nominating Parasite as president. I mentioned a couple of names yesterday, probably a few of those, you know, Nade, you don't want to have players that could be biased, right? I think that's my thought, is that if you brought in Nadeshot or if you brought in Zuma potentially to the committee, or even like Octane, they've got links to certain teams. So would they potentially be biased in their decision-making towards what's good for their team if they get someone whispering something in their ear? Maybe. So, and look, let's be real, is the CDL ever going to do this? Probably not. But in an ideal world, the decisions on the GAs, on the bans, and on the map set are made by like an external committee without all the bias that is presently in play in the Pro League. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.